This is Mr. Weird in Japan. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Have you ever heard of the Kunekune? The Kunekune is a yokai that appears in rural Japan's fields. It is reported to have an appearance of this wriggling, sort of white, fuzzy looking thing. Some reports also include that it may be the color black. But the weird part about it is nobody can get too close to it. It is also warned that you should never really look at it, because if you do so, you will go insane. Here are a few narratives that I've collected to share with you today. This encounter with a yokai is called A Summer Day. It was the summer of 1974. I was 9 years old. My older brother Hiro and I were playing near the edge of the rice fields. It was a day like any other. The sun was bright. The fields stretched endlessly. But then I saw it. At first, I thought it was a scarecrow. But scarecrows don't move like that. It bent and twisted, its limbs stretching like paper caught in the wind. I pointed it out to Hiro. Hiro said, "Don't look at it. Stop looking at it. The Kunekune is said to drive those who stare at it mad, leaving them laughing uncontrollably, or frozen in terror forever." I looked at my brother Hiro and was confused. The Kunekune? What's that? Something that you should never look at. Let's go. This next tale is called A Farmer. Decades ago in 1922, a farmer was returning home at twilight and had his own encounter with a Kunekune. The farmer had this to say. It had been a long day in the fields. I was tired, but as I walked back, I saw something in the distance. A white, twisting shape, dancing in the breeze. At first, I thought it was a piece of cloth, caught on a tree. But it wasn't cloth. It wasn't anything natural. I felt cold, like a winter wind had blown through me. I turned, and I ran as quickly as I could, and I did not look back. This farmer never ventured into that field ever again. This should serve as a warning to all those who dare to linger too long in open spaces, especially when they see something in the distance that they're not sure of. This next encounter is called The Car. I had heard of the Kunekune legend, and about 10 years ago, I was on a road trip with my friends one summer. As we were going down the road, my friend said, "What is that?" And my other friend said, "It's probably just a scarecrow. You know how farmers are." And I said, "No, I've never seen a scarecrow move like that." My friend said, "Let's just go." And I agreed with them. We never talked again about what we saw that day. But a few years ago, I read a newspaper article about that same area, and that two boys had gone crazy insane, and they claimed to have seen something out of the ordinary in a field. This last story is called A Field at Twilight. As the sun dips down over the horizon, shadows do tend to stretch very long. The Kunekune had been somewhat of a fanatical sort of story I had heard about as a child. It was just really a cautionary tale against curiosity. But when I was about 20 years old, I found myself in an open field in the middle of Japan. I was all by myself. Everything was clear, except one twisting, fuzzy looking thing in the distance. I briefly glanced at it, and instinctively, my fight or flight trigger kicked in. In the back of my mind, I told myself, don't look too long, don't approach, and most importantly, don't let it see you. A faint rustling was heard behind me as I steadily made my way out of that field. I never looked back, even though I heard something following me. I got out of that field as quickly as I could, hopped into my car, and swore never to return to that spot again. This is Mr. Weird in Japan. Thank you again for listening to these stories. As you've heard, they all have in common something out of the ordinary that may be seen in a field or an isolated place that's wiggling in the distance. If you so happen to encounter such a thing, don't look at it and exit the area as soon as possible. Because if you fail to do so, based on the legends that I've heard, you will go insane.